Do you have your copy yet of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's bestseller Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections? November 3rd, 2020, something happened for the first time in history, and as a result, America became something many of us no longer recognize. But first, this book will make you mad, then sad, and then you are most likely to become pissed off. Anger is good, and feelings are good, if you know how to channel those feelings. This book will help you do that, but do not open this book if you can't handle the truth. If you just want to take the blue pill and stay in the matrix, that is your choice. The book is carefully researched and presented in chronological order. You will be taken on a journey back in time to see how the system and machine was devised, developed, manufactured and deployed. Once you see it, your eyes will be forever open and you will never be the same person again. You have been warned. Let's continue. On November 3rd, 2020, the world, your world, changed. The official counting of votes for our general election, specifically the votes being counted for president, was stopped at approximately 10:30 p.m. Red flags went up everywhere. Over the next few days, American voters sensed something was horribly wrong. The events of the month of November 2020 forever changed American history, American media, and social media, all, and were forever harmed, as was American voters' trust and confidence in our elections. As time passed, Joe Biden was sworn in, and America had descended into deep chaos. This book is a deep research dive into the who, what, when, where, why, and how of some critical questions such as, was this chaos intended or manufactured? What happened in the election when there was such a clear, bold movement for Donald J. Trump? How could someone like Joe Biden, who really did not campaign at all, and when he did there were only a handful of supporters present, ever win the election to become President of the United States of America? One side cried out, the election was rigged, and the other side shouted out, you're poor losers, or there is no such thing as election fraud. Americans became split even further and deeper at a time when we were already split more than ever before in modern times. To determine if there could ever be nefarious activities within American elections, we need to find solid, factual answers to questions which can no longer remain unanswered. Is there even any way to know the outcome of an election before the results are called? In fact, this question needs to be both asked and answered, because if anyone or any country was going to materially change the outcome of an American election, they would have to have some form of reasonable advanced knowledge of how the election was going at any one time. Is there even the remote possibility that bad actors could peek into our elections as they were in process? For the moment, let's say there was a way to see the predata of our elections across the United States. Is there even a way for our voting systems and machines to be compromised? Could votes even be changed after they were cast? Could votes be inserted into our machines? Even if a bad actor wanted to undermine the American elections, how could they ever do it? Would we ever be able to detect such egregious and nefarious violations of the American voting systems? Wouldn't it take thousands of criminals to pull something like that off? How could it even be done when the media tells us there is no such things as election fraud? Why, if so many people and professionals have looked, has no hard evidence ever come to light? You need facts. You'll need answers. Find those answers in Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's bestseller, Countdown to Chaos, The Silent Federalizing of Elections.
Okay, guys, we're going to stretch your brain today. Right down the center of your brain. I'm going to massage that little membrane right in the center. And we're going to expand your mind, and we're going to tackle a subject that needs to be talked about. Make sure you share this program. It's a very important program. By the way, speaking of important, let's talk about your money just real quick. It is important. And that's why I have Jovan Loves Gold, brought to you by the fine folks I partner with at Gold Co. All I'm asking you to do is go put in your information and get the free gold and silver kit today. The system still, nothing's changed with President Trump in, he's doing other things. The system still uses your money to work against us. Yeah, they're making great strides against U.S. aid, but think about all the retirement accounts they control. And yes, they control them, and they use it against us to force our politicians to do what they want them to do. Please go to jovanlovesgold.com, fill out the information, and by the way, you might get up to $10,000 in free silver. If silver's your bag, baby, go to instantsilver.com/Jovan. Again, put in your retirement value and find out how much it would be worth. And maybe that will get you to pay attention to the link below and at least do something and understand how it works. Yes, you've got to understand how it works. What about making your body work right? Yep, you got to make your body work right. Let's get your mind, well, at ease. How about this? I have for you a special promotion. It's from the fine folks at CB Distillery. I've got a QR code, scan code, whatever you want to call it, for you. And the links below. You know, we've cleaned up our diets. We removed harsh chemicals from our homes. So why are we still relying on outdated remedies for our health? Mainly, I think, traditional pharmaceuticals. Let me tell you about the highest quality CBD from CB Distillery. They offer natural plant-based solutions for sleep, stress, and even post-workout pain that actually work. Get this, 90% of people report better sleep with CBD. That's a big deal. And if you're battling a daily stress or you're trying to ease that pain in the ass, nagging pain, maybe you have it at night, maybe you have it after exercise, CB Distillery has solutions for that too. My personal go-to right there. CBD in a roll-on stick, baby. Let me see if I can get a better focus on it. Right there. That's my go-to. This is my miracle in the evenings when my body is in pain. Ask people in chat, they love the roll-on. They're just trying to figure out how to roll it all over your body. Once you try it, you'll wonder how you ever got by without it. Go to the URL, cbdistillery.com, put in the promo code Jovan, use the scan code on your screen. With over 2 million satisfied customers and 100% money back guarantee, you can trust CB Distillery. So look, if you're still trying remedies straight off the medicine cabinet, maybe it's time to switch to CB Distillery. Right now, you can save 20% with promo code Jovan at cbdistillery.com. That's cbdistillery.com, promo code Jovan, cbdistillery.com, and not available in Idaho, Iowa, or South Dakota. Although that would make the promo code SOL, because you're SOL if you're in that one, right? I don't know why, folks. Sorry. I had to toy with that one. You know what I mean? But, you know, from the fine folks that bring us Fill the Greens, they make this lean. There it is right there. This kind of gave me the big jump. And why do I say the big jump? Because I had to take the big dump. I had to get rid of some weight. When I look at this photo of the most important day of my life with the most important man in the world and spending quality time with him, all I do is see, damn, I'm carrying so much weight. Well, here's my jump start right there that got me started. You should think about getting started too. The product is called Lean. Right there. That's it. See, my problem was I was a yo-yo dieter. You lose the weight, you gain it back. You lose the weight, you gain back more. You lose the weight, you gain it back. Studies have shown that that's dangerous. It actually increases your rate of heart attack or your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. You've got to break free. Here's the code for you. You can scan it or do the link below, takelean.com, promo code Jovan20. Jovan20. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is the main reason doctors created Lean. Lean is a supplement, not an injection, and you won't need a prescription. The science behind Lean is impressive. Its studied natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Helps you maintain healthy blood sugar, helps control appetite and cravings, helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So listen, if you're tired of losing weight and gaining it back, and if you have meaningful weight to lose, not just a few pounds, well, you want to do it at a healthy pace. That's why Lean was created for you. Let me get you started with 20% off when you enter Jovan20 at takelean.com. That's Jovan20 at takelean.com. I'm going to ask a favor of you for this program. At the end of this program, I want you to give me a grade, a report card. And I want you to be honest. I want you to give me a D, right? If you think I'm being a dick, true, to the people that want to do certain things. If I'm being a dick, give me a D. When it comes to hand counting ballots, if you think I'm just trying to fuck over the system, give me an F. Right? Give me an A if you think I'm absolutely right. Give me a B if what I'm talking about is brilliant. Right? Because what I'm going to talk about, I get criticized for saying, you're just a meanie. You're just a meanie. You're meanie to my friends. You're a dick. Okay, I can accept that. But then I have to question where you're coming from, because we're all here trying to save our country. And all I'm going to do is we're going to have a very serious discussion. Keep your mind open. And we're going to talk about hand counting. And is it hopium, heartaches, or is it heroism? But we've got to talk about this because everybody in this process is too damn professionally weak to have a discussion about, okay, how do we really do it? Nobody wins a prize for this shit unless you think spending all your money is winning a prize. It's not a prize, let me tell you. There's no glory. There's no special prize unless we get to live in America we all love. And we got a chance of losing it, even if there is hand counting going on. Share this program right now. We're just going to get very direct about how do we accomplish things we want to accomplish. Share this, especially with your people out there in election integrity. If you got anybody out there that wears a bow tie, make sure they see this, especially if they wear bow ties and praise Jesus all the time. Let's get started.
Warning. The following program has been rated Dilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, we're going to dive into some crap. Culture, race, and American politics. Culture, race, and American pansies. I don't know. Powders. We're just going to have a very honest and candid discussion about hand counting of ballots. Is it hopium? Is it heartaches? Or is it heroism? Now, pop quiz real quick. Please answer in chat. If our elections go nefarious or sideways, who gets affected by it? Put it in chat. If our elections go nefarious and sideways, who gets affected by such? That's an easy one. The people. Everybody. Okay? If lawmakers name a law expanding the boundaries of children for overall future development. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Until you find out they want to cut off winkers or put a winker in the little boys. See, they name a lot of this stuff. And if stuff like that passes, who pays for it? Well, not only our children, but all of us as a country. You're right. Every one of us in the country. If somebody wins an award for the most victorious, patriotic election integrity expert in the world to have ever existed since time, who benefits from that? One person. Not everyone. One person. Period. That's it. One singular person. And so I want to kind of give you a disclosure. I am not, what I'm going to cover today, I am not picking on anyone. But let me tell you a few things. I'm not in elementary school. Number two, most of you, I don't know you. I don't know who your friends are. And since I don't know you and I don't know your friends, how can I be singling out you and your friends making fun of you? Now, if that worked, wouldn't we right now have all the people at USAID and seeing all these billions and trillions gone going, you're just making fun of me. You're picking on my friends. Well, actually, the left does use that. What do they say? You're racist. Those are the, I know I'm caught, but shut the hell up. I'm going to shame you. I'm going to shame you into silence. I can't be shamed into silence. I'd be ashamed if I told my grandmother, God bless her soul, died at 103 if she was still alive. I told her some of the shit I do. That would shame me. Other stuff? Nah. Right? All of us are in this, I believe, I hopefully believe, to save the United States of America and to have our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and future heirs grow up in the same wonderful country we grew up in. And if you don't think the system's bad, look at the punishment for Elon Musk. President Trump praised him again this morning for sacrificing so much for this nation. He's lost $120 billion of wealth since doing this. But now they're paying people, these underground organizations, to go burn up Tesla dealerships and stuff. If you don't think the system is going to manipulate your ass, you got another thing coming. And if you think the bad system all present as bad guys, you're wrong. They got every one of their bases covered. I'll show you a few things just to kind of set the tone. It's like this. The SAFE Act, securing America's elections. Well, that's a nice sign. It's no different than when they were wearing kumbaya tunics and kneeling. The SAFE Act, securing America's elections for Democrats. Well, if we were to look at these SAFE Acts and what they really said, let's go back to these SAFE Acts. What the hell do they really say? establishes requirements for voting systems that include durable voter verified paper ballots. Durable voter verified paper ballots. Now that sounds kick-ass, doesn't it? Durable voter verified paper ballots. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when you understand the definitions and what it is, it basically means you get a piece of paper that's a ballot, and you mark it, and you get to look at it to make sure you like it before you cast the vote. Durable voter verified ballot. You're going to hand me a ballot. I get to look at it. I get to go shake it. Wow, that's durable. I get to mark on it, and then I get to go, here you go. That is a durable voter verified ballot. Now, see, you hear what you want to hear. We get to inspect and hand count the ballots. No, you don't. Here's the third most important part of it. First part is it's going to be on individual, durable. What do they mean by individual? Well, see, you hear keywords. You're an individual. What are they going to do? Give you one piece of paper for every vote? You got 95 votes in an election. They're not going to give you 95 pieces of paper. We're going to do you a favor. We're going to put it on one individual piece of paper. But see, that's a trigger word in your brain. It's the individual for me. Individual voter verified. Here's the third most important part. Ensure that individuals with disability are given an equivalent opportunity to vote, including with privacy and independence, in a manner that produces a voter verified paper ballot. We're going to have a wheelchair ramp. You get to go up the ramp. If you're a little shy and don't want people to see you in a wheelchair, you can go behind the screen. And then you're going to get that durable individual ballot that you get to mark, and you get to look at it and go, but you hear how it sounds nice, right? You hear how it sounds nice. Number 4, it's going to be manufactured in the United States. Let me phrase that one for you. That's the fourth key on that. We are going to make sure we're going to do by law that ballots must be produced in the United States of America. You're going to go, hey! Let me translate that for you. We're going to pass into law what is already a law. Yeah, it's already a law. But they're going to do it. And then how about this one? We're going to meet the specified cybersecurity requirements of the Election Assistance Commission, which when you read them are voluntary. This is how the game is played. You got it? This is how the game is played. Now, there's another SAFE Act that is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. We're going to make sure you're eligible. Now, this one basically says you have to have proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote. That's fucking awesome. Except, predominantly, we don't have voter registration places. It just automatically happens with motor voter. You get a driver's license or an ID, you apply for food stamps, they automatically register your vote. You apply for housing aid, they automatically register your vote. But if you walk in to a voter registration place, well, then you better bring your citizenship. The other places are exempt because it's automated. But we're going to safeguard American voter eligibility. I don't know. You know, I've done what? I think now several thousand hours of teaching on this. And the reason they name laws that way, and the reason they come up with catchphrases, we're going to melt them to prison bars. Pause. Let's make crosses first and sell those. Anyway, the reason they name that way is because it lodges it into your brain and you basically identify what you want. But see, they're crafty. How about the Michigan law that says you cannot recount an election if somebody says there were fraud, and you cannot recount an election if the person who won by a wide margin? Let me get that right. If there's fraud, if there's nefarious actions that you think are dubious, well, no, you can't recount it. If this guy won by 95% and we never saw him, never knew him, he never campaigned, well, he won by a wide margin. You can't do a recount. You with me yet? You with me? Okay. Now let me tell you where I'm headed with this. The reason you're seeing so much online, coming back online regarding the Arizona audit that we did, the full forensic audit we did, is because several things are now putting that forensic evidence into play. And the left and the deep state and the rhinos are losing their shit. That's all I can say. Past that, there's a massive push, and you're hearing it reflected. We're going to go to hand-counted ballots. Now, I want to set a tone here. I am 100% of taking our voting and going backwards and making it analog. Here's what it means. We don't use any electronic tally systems. We don't use any electronic scan systems. You must have ID, proper, true, real ID. You must be a citizen. Let's get rid of mail-in ballots. Let's get rid of early voting unless you're literally a quadriplegic in the hospital or whatever. And do it one day. And it's a national holiday. And yes, you can use a calculator because a calculator is a locked compute system. That doesn't mean doing it on your phone. It just means it only lock computes. So I want to say it again. I've been calling for this for a long time. I am the first person to scream paper ballots only, and they must be certified paper. I'm kind of 5 years ahead of that. But then there is you got to have an understanding of what goes on. So what I'm going to give you today is a lesson in rapid fire of here is how it works. Because here's my question, and I've asked you to grade me. If you think I'm being a dick, call me out. If you think I'm trying to save our nation for myself, for my children, for my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren, and on, you're freaking right. And it just so happens if I do it for myself, it gets done for you too. because there are really only certain fixed ways to do it. Do you get it? That's the truth. Period. All we need to do is get it done right. So and I want you to suspend belief just for a moment for everything you've heard. Only thing I didn't do today is wear a cross on the outside of my blue shirt. I don't care who you heard any promo from. I want you to use your brain and make up your own mind. That's it. Now, you know, for me, every bit of my work, I can show you, I can recreate everything. I don't talk in theories or here's this chart, see this, and I just need a place to test the theory. It either is or it isn't. So grade this program, either it is or it isn't. If you think I'm a dick, you tell me I'm a dick. I'm angry, but at the moment, I'm not an angry dick. Here's the question. Ballot hand counting, is it hopium? Is it heartaches? Or is it heroism? Now, you've been seeing a few things over the last few days that I've been releasing. Let's go back to May 5th, 2021. And from that incredible patriot of American patriotism serving America, you know her as Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, then now governor, rewarded for what she did. Okay. Here's a memo from Katie Hobbs. There it is right there. Right? You've got to understand when it goes back to the Arizona audit, 9,000 some odd pages of documentation. You get people that say, well, I was asked to peer review Jovan's work, and you won't even find their names in the paper. Any of the correspondence, you'll find one where somebody transcribed something that happened in Colorado, and they put the transcription and said, hey, did you hear this stuff? That's it. So there's a lot of bullshit lying going on. But here's what Katie Hobbs did, right? Governor with a master's in social work. Here's what she wrote on May 5th, 2021. Okay? She wrote the following, and this is about this guy. Ready? The, in quotes, forensic audit of ballots lack any credibility in the basis in actual election operations. Well, we're doing a forensic audit. We're not running an election. But hey, that doesn't matter. Even the right does this. Well, he wasn't peer reviewed. Oh, he's not qualified. He doesn't mention Jesus enough. Here's what Katie Hobbs wrote. Ready? A number of items detailed in the counting floor procedures. That's this stuff. Counting floor procedures. That counting floor procedures. All those colors, all that's my work too. Okay, here you go. The number of items detailed in the counting floor procedures appear better suited for chasing conspiracy theories rather than as part of a professional audit. For example, using UV lights to search for watermarks, measuring the thickness of ballots, searching for folds in ballots, and looking at ballots under a microscope are completely unnecessary steps if the goal of the audit is to validate the election results. Though conspiracy theorists are undoubtedly carrying on these types of inspections and perhaps providing financial support because of their use, they do little other than further marginalize the professionalism and intent of this audit. Okay, so let's just talk about this for a minute because it's going to have every bearing on everything we're going to do today. And I really hope you have patience for this, because if you don't have patience for this, you don't have patience for getting it right. You don't have patience for saving the country. You don't have patience for your kids. You don't have patience for your grandkids. And you're going to continue to accept this shit we go through. Let's look at a few of these things. For example, using UV lights to search for watermarks. Well, there were UV lights on the floor. Look to the right of the photo. The UV light is used to verify what is called stochastic pixels. That's when the printer leaks. The way your printer knows you're about to run out of ink, how do it know? How do it know I need magenta and blue? How do it know? Well, here's how it knows. It's like weepy eyes, runny noses, or weeping wankers. You know what I'm talking about. It leaks a tiny, tiny, tiny dot below the visibility of the eye. And it's by the running out of that one thing, because it's a base color, yellow, it knows what mixtures you have left by what else comes out. That's what the UV's for. Okay? It's looking for the thing that is basically the yellow dot on the page. Now, why is the yellow dot on the page that is below the eye level of a human, why is that important? Do you know why that's important? Because it's the only way you can tell, was it printed on the correct printer? Now, how did I learn that? Well, I learned it because I looked at the machine, the very expensive machine they were supposed to print on. I contacted the manufacturer of the machine. I got with the patent holders of how it prints for those cassettes on the machine and said, okay, how do we cross-verify your work that it came off this machine? And we developed the standard together. Wasn't a theory. Now you have a now governor, and as I told you, rewarded very much rewarded for her work. And did I delete that? No, there it is. Okay. So now you know what it was. We weren't searching for watermarks. That was the misdirection. We did watermarks. Now you'll get how it works. We did watermarks in it that can communicate to the satellite using QFSS blockchain. It's all the same thing. He wants people to say watermarks. They want you to think it was watermarks, so you stand down all the time. Ready for this? Measuring the thickness of ballots. Why would you do that? Well, the state said, we use this paper and this paper only. How do you catch them in the lie with that? You look at the paper, and it is a measurement. So we're just trying to say, are your words matching what you did? We're inspecting what we expect. Searching for folds in ballot, looking for ballots under a microscope. But here's the key point. Completely unnecessary steps if the goal of the audit is to validate the election results. Now, let me ask you a question. Was the goal of the audit to validate the election results? No. And if you think that, you're wrong. The goal of the audit was to validate if everything they said was true, if what they reported was true, and if they followed the procedures set by law. If in looking for those things, you find something wrong, then it can lead to, well, more than likely the count's wrong too. But you see how they play these words. Okay. Now, why am I even doing this? So let me ask you a question, right? We're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. That's the average time on the floor that any one person got to look at a voted oval. 1, 2, 3. That's the cadence. Ready? I'm going to show you 2 things. I'm going to give you to the count of 3 on each. You tell me which one is the official one. Ready to go? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. First one or second one? Which one was the official one? I'll even do it again. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Everybody's saying the second one. Well, actually, in that particular example, both of them are real. This is when you're looking down at it. This is when you twist it with the light. So who was wrong? Which is my point. Which is my point. These kind of things are used in the real world. I have literally done 20 hours just on training the different security measures and ballots. Now, here is a secure ballot. They used it in Georgia. Rat's ass burger is all around. Soak it in. Soak it in, baby. There are 21 security measures in that currency grade ballot. Tell me how many you can identify. 1, 2, 3. Here's the master. Look at it carefully. You got 1, 2, 3 to look at it because that's all the time you have. 1, 2, 3. That's exactly how much time we were given for any one thing on the floor. That's why it took so many people. You saw these people, not because of my work, but because the Senate itself wanted a hand count. The Senate itself, you can't touch the ballot, right? And we had to distance for COVID. Now, why is the floor laid out at this? Let me show you something really interesting. See the different colors? Yellow team, green team, blue team, red team, orange team. Do you know why I did that? Because if you got a fucking yellow shirt on and you're in the green section, something's fucking wrong and you're not supposed to be there. See, they wouldn't let us on the floor, so we ran security cameras, 9 of them. Now you see why I went to colors and they made, I ain't just Power Rangers. You also see the tape lined on the floors. You don't get out of your boundaries. This is called forensic measures to make sure things go right. Period. And I could keep on going, and I could keep on going, and I could keep on going, and I can keep on going. And you saw it. We were doing super high def digital images. We could blow a single ballot up to the size of a billboard. This is just the hand count, but my work is this digital forensics here. That's what all of this was created for. The floor, that was to appease the Senate because they wanted a hand count. That was to appease the Senate because they wanted a hand count. Okay. Why are we going through this drill? Well, I had an interesting conversation online with one of the Cause of Americas, right? And this is the Texas leader. This is the Texas leader of Cause for America. And I invited Colonel Sean Smith on, which is the leader of Cause of America. And I apologize for all the women on Twitter that ask him questions for what he calls you. I don't think that reflects well on a leader. And it's horrible that happens. Let me remind you who Cause of America is.
So you have a centralized statewide voter roll that's on networked machines, servers. It has a public-facing internet interface. That's it. That's all I need to know that it's blown. That's a centralized statewide voter roll that was mandated by Help America Vote Act. They have these all over the country. And it's not just that you have a public-facing internet interface to it, but multiple organizations have what's called an API, or an application programming interface. In other words, a machine-to-machine interface into that voter roll. And I'm telling you this because when people say, well, we have to clean up the voter rolls, it's true that they're not following the law. It's true that they're not in good faith maintaining them in accordance with Title 52 that requires that the voter rolls be both secure and accurate. That's a requirement imposed on the Secretaries of State who've received the Help America Voting Act and CARES Act funding to maintain those voting systems. What nobody's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, is you cannot clean those rolls. You're sweeping a dirt floor. Those things can be changed in microseconds, and they are changed in microseconds, and we've got proof of that happening in multiple states where voters are shifted between counties, they're made active, they're made inactive, they're deleted off the rolls after voting and then brought back in a month later. These things cannot be maintained.
Now, the reason the system does not want the voter rolls touched is because they already have the ammunition and the weapon. Period. They already have the ammunition loaded in the weapon. And even though you get to Kamala at 68 election night, they've already got her, and they're still doing it. They're changing it, going into the 70 million plus, because they're trying to close that gap so it doesn't look so bad. But the reason the right, the left, otherwise does not want the voter rolls purged, cleaned, or gotten rid of is because of this right here. The ammunition's already in the gun. Therefore, just like that paper, this is, you can see him right over the shoulder there. There's Fincham. He's the one that ran around selling this paper. And these lawmakers get commissions for every time the ballot's used. Not bad if the country goes to 150 million ballots, is it? I did the math on it. It stands to make about $45 million every 3 years on average. Right? Okay. So this person in Texas, his leader for Texas, because he won't come on with me, because I made fun of him, and I won't treat him nice. I'm so sorry, Sean. Yes, I questioned your manhood because you can't stand up and talk about it, but here you go. This person basically said, professionals don't attack people to get attention for themselves and their work. Their work should speak for itself and shouldn't be shoved down people's throats as the only work in the world. And then actually says something really weird. I don't even know what Jovan does. Well, then how am I shoving my work down people's throats? How are you even able to identify my work? Okay. So what I did is I responded to that. And I said, come on, wait a minute. I'm giving this out, trying to tell everybody, hey, pay attention, because nobody will take meetings. Nobody will take calls if you're in it. Right? And everybody else is on somebody's payroll. And I'm not. Okay. Hey, by the way, I want to let you know, CBNG posted right now a link that you've got to know they're putting mRNA in our food. And that's what I'm talking about. So please, on Rumble, click and go talk about food right now. Kind of what politicians do. Hey, look over here. Anyway, so I wrote back because I challenged it. And this person said there should be a presiding judge signature on the back of every ballot, numbering, and only one ballot box per precinct on one day. The auto pen is an attack vector by the numbering, and military-grade paper security should mitigate that. Now, I replied, I said, should is not and never will be is. Personally, I think people, and especially election integrity experts and leaders, are really horrible at shoulding all over everything. Yeah, they should all over it. I asked a question, tell me why your system works and what do you do? And it comes back. Well, there should be a presiding judge signature on the back of every ballot, numbering, and only one ballot box per precinct on one day. There should be a lot of things. But we're not trying to sell should, and we're not shoulding all over everything. We're trying to understand how is the system set up and what can we do to mitigate the risk. But she adds, now this is all training. This is all training. The auto pen is an attack vector, but the numbering and military grade security paper should mitigate that. This was on the day that we found out that Biden stuff had been signed by auto pen. So let me read it back to you. Keyword, keyword, I sound smart. Keyword, keyword, I sound really smart. Keyword, keyword, that. And this is what the people do. By the way, there are no auto pens set up for signing signatures on ballots. Never have been, never will be. Now, why do I know that? Because we ingested an ungodly thousands of signatures and variations in the Arizona audit, which is why I can tell you election workers were signing the ballots themselves. Now, all I did was ask, please tell me, how are you going to catch ballots that are counterfeit, dead voters, illegal voters, right? And phantom voters when you hand count? Because see, that's my thing. Is hand counting hopium, or is it heartache, or is it heroism? The answer that got back, there should be a presiding judge signature on the back of every ballot, numbering, and only one ballot box per precinct per day. The auto pen is an attack vector, but the numbering and military grade security paper should mitigate that. Okay, let's deal with shoulds. I can do that. How about this? There should be a presiding judge signature on the back of every ballot. We should retina scan them. We should anal probe them. We should take a DNA test. We should get a piece of their copy of their birth certificate. We should follow them home. We should make sure the car they're driving is registered to them. We should make sure the paper is correct. And we should make sure there's one box, one precinct, and everyone gets pressed. We should. And it'd be great. You can do the anal probe, I'll do the frisk. But you see what I'm saying? But see, people don't remember the headlines. They go, but the auto pen is an attack vector. An attack vector, warning, 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 attack vector. Military grade, disfucking. Look here, not there. An auto pen can't do the ballots for many reasons. But those are nice words. And I said, should is not and never will be is. Personally, I think people, and especially election integrity expert and leaders, are really horrible at shoulding over everything. Barring the BS keyword in the media right now of auto penning as being an attack vector, blah, 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 blah. And I said, if you think ballots are auto penned, you don't even know what you're talking about. I said, and you're talking about shoulds. I only asked you, when ballots are hand counted, how do you account for an illegal that voted a ballot, a dead person that voted a ballot, an election worker that voted in somebody else's name, or even the phantom voter? How do you account for that? Well, see, they leave these out as if they don't happen.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack. And then she goes back to her car with the stack of ballots again. And I think at that point she realized that the ballots were not signed. And so you're going to watch her sign each ballot in the vehicle. and she signs them and then puts them on the dashboard individually. First, she searches for a pen, so it takes a second, but we've got this speeded up so you can see. But yeah, so she's signing, and when it's slowed down, you can see the pen in her hand when she reaches up and puts the ballot on the dashboard each time.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so she's
That's
man,
it.
You guys are
Yeah.
you guys
Good
are
find.
fantastic.
Good find. That's
Yeah, they
fantastic.
did a great job.
Find.
Now, let me ask you a question. This is what's called linear thinking. Did the crime occur before the ballot box? Because remember, this leader of Texas, one ballot box. One ballot box. Okay. Question, pop quiz, put it in chat. Did the nefarious act occur where you can catch it at the ballot box? Ready? Here, and here's why. See, I said you're shitting all of yourself. And she says you are wacky. Was always and historically instead of should have better. You're just wanting to fight about nothing. The voting machines are a scam and have destabilized us. Anyone attacking the hand count movement and the people trying to restore local government is suspect. Your response is suspect. I'm not attacking hand counting. I'm trying to make sure that hand counting takes everything into consideration. So when the hand counting occurs, which I support, is effective. But here's the question. In that video I showed you, tell me when the nefarious act or fraud occurred. Okay? And let me see if she says it here. Oh, wait. Here you go. Ready? No, ready? Listen, ready? Here's how we're going to measure. Ready? I actually came back. I said, wacky is not a substitute for trained professional, meaning I'm a trained professional. No need to call names unless you can't defend your stance. And then, yes, most people resort to calling names. Next, we do not have voting machines. We have voting systems. It's Dell computers. Now, this is the head of the state, right? The voting machines are a scam. We don't have voting machines. Okay, but she makes a point here. Ready? And here's the point. If an attacker tries to stuff the ballot box, they will be detected. Okay. If they try to attack the ballot box, let me know if this is an attack on the ballot box. Again,
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack. And then she goes back to her car with the stack of ballots.
okay, so let me ask you a question. And this is important. Did that first woman on the first part, did she deposit ballots in the ballot box? Watch again.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack.
Here's the question. Did that person take a stack of ballots and drop them in the ballot box?
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack.
Yes or no? Please just answer it. There's no trick question here. Did that woman take a stack of ballots and drop them in the ballot box? Please, yes or no? Yes or no? There's a reason you need this. So most people are answering yes. A few answered no. Okay? Now here's the reality. That woman did not put ballots in the ballot box. but you just saw her on video. Well, let me tell you how this works. If you go back to Carrie Lake's trial, the one where Shaggy from Scooby-Doo was defending her, where the guys obviously were caught by the city stuffing, Scooby-Doo couldn't defend it because he says, what, you don't count those ballots? And they said, no, we don't count those ballots. But you put them in the ballot box. You mean you don't count them? No, we have to take them down to MTech. Now, what Shaggy from Scooby-Doo failed to know.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box.
Two things. Ready? And let's say those are ballots there. Here's the law. Did she put ballots in a ballot box? No, she put a voting packet in that form, you got a marked ballot inside the security envelope, signed and whatever. That's called the ballot packet. And by the way, that's a drop box. Did the woman put drop ballots in the ballot box? By law, she did not. Because that opposing attorney goes, Your Honor, even to those idiots, that's not a fucking ballot. That is a ballot packet. And by the way, you vote at the ballot box when you walk in. That's a goddamn drop box. She wasn't voting. She was casting her ballot. She was depositing her ballot. Now, let me ask you again, now that you know the words. A ballot is, in fact, what the word is, a ballot. What she had in her hands were ballot packets. A ballot box is, in fact, when you go into early vote and you mark your ballot and you hand fold it and you drop it in, that is the only ballot box. Why? Because only a ballot goes in there. You can't put a ballot packet in there.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack. And then she goes back.
Okay. That one thing, when there was a drop box outside of the voting center where you go in to get to a ballot box, was the big O evidence they were going to produce in Arizona to save Carrie Lake. But they didn't use experts to present. I wonder why that is. Because the experts sat there and, Shaggy, Scooby-Doo wasn't there. Scooby-Doo would have done better. Shaggy said, well, Artie, why didn't you count those ballots? And the guy from the state could say, we're not required to. Is he lying? No. We're not required to count those there. Was the county goob lying? No. And why are they not required to count them there? Because that's a ballot fucking packet. And if he reached in that box and he opened that packet to get out the ballot, he'd be committing a crime. And in Arizona, all they do is cast ballots. They don't count ballots until it gets all the way down to MTech. That is where the ballot is counted. And by the way, the packet, if it's in packet form and it's in a drop box, it has to go to MTech because they're the only ones that can open it to take out the ballot by law and then tally it. Why do I even teach on this? Because intentionally, the system makes sure nobody knows the difference. So when you sit on a court stand, and remember, I'm an expert witness, when you sit on a court stand, you fuck it up. They need you to fuck it up. They need you to let them off the hook. You think you're prosecuting them. You think you're doing good. No, you're fucking letting them off the hook. Why? Because the system kept you away from the proper knowledge based on the rule of law. If you call them out knowing the law, using the words of the law, then they get caught. But see, you think you're being a hero. You think you know this stuff. Now, am I criticizing you? No, I'm trying to educate you. And why am I doing it? Why am I even doing that? Because if you are, right, if you are the head of election integrity for hand counting Cause of America in fucking Texas, and you still think we use voting machines, there is a problem. If you actually think the attacker tries to stuff the ballot box, you're wrong. It's not stuffing the ballot box. It's stuffing the mailbox and the drop box. But they're not stuffing them with ballots. They're stuffing them with ballot packets. And that's why we get our ass handed to us. And this is the head of the state. This is how subtle it is in case law. This is how they beat us every damn day. Now, Cause of America knows this. Mike Lindell knows this. Why do they know it? Because I am a document it, paper it, call them out fool. I've educated them, but yet they won't adjust. Why won't they adjust? Is because that's what the system wants you to think is being great, but it's actually designed to fail from the beginning. Let's look at the rest of this video.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack. And then she goes back to her car with the stack of ballots again. And I think at that point she realized that the ballots were not signed. And so you're going to watch her sign each ballot in the vehicle. And she signs them and then puts them on the dashboard.
Now, did she sign the ballot? No. What she did is she signed the ballot packet, which is multiple crimes. Why? First off, in signing the ballot packet, and it wasn't her, she committed one crime. The second part of the crime was identity theft. The third part of the crime was forgery. But why does everybody keep on talking about the ballot? She cannot be prosecuted by law for signing the ballot. I'll prove it to you. You find those ballots. I'm going to be the opposing attorney. Magically, if you can find that ballot, because remember, the envelope is separated from the ballot, never to be connected again. And I'm going to drag her ass into court. I'm going to defend her. You're going to say, we saw you signing the ballots. I'm going to say, can you produce the ballots in question? And let's say every fucking one of them were for Joe Biden. Fucking slam dunk. She put 10,000 of them in there, and they're all for Joe Biden. I'm going to tell you, produce those ballots. And you're going to produce those ballots. And I'm going to say, hold up the ballot, please, sir. Show me where she signed it. Now, let me ask you a question. She did 10,000 of them. Can you show me a single ballot with a signature on it? Yes or no? Put it in chat. Can you produce as evidence in a court of law a single ballot with a signature on it? You cannot. Does she walk? She walks. Oh, here's a little interesting thing. Ready? Here's the interesting thing. I even pointed out in Georgia, thousands and thousands of illegally printed ballots. What were my pictures of? Ballots, actual ballots. Can you convict that woman for signing somebody else's ballot? Yes or no? You can't. Because see, what she signed was a ballot packet. She signed a testament on an envelope. Now here's the bitch. Ready? The moment that envelope is opened, the ballot packet, and they take out the ballot goes one way, and the envelope goes another way. And you can never put them back together, which is why even if she did sign the ballot, you don't and will never know which one. Now, this is simple education. It is education on prosecuting the perpetrator. But the system intentionally teaches you wrong. Now, am I shitting all over the Texas superintendent? No. I'm saying, wait a minute. You got to get your wording right. And if you're the head of the state and you think we still use voting machines, you got a problem. Because you're never, I can show you all the cases, you're not going to get a prosecution on it. And that's why I call out even the subtleties. And here's the subtlety. If an attacker tries to stuff the ballot box, they will be detected. Okay.
This woman is delivering a stack of ballots, and the person behind her rolls down the window and hands her a ballot to put in the ballot box with her stack. And then she goes back to her car with the stack of ballots again. And I think at that point she realized that the ballots were not signed. And so you're going to watch her sign each ballot in the vehicle. And she signs them and then puts them on the dashboard individually.
You're watching a nefarious act narrated in 100% the wrong way. But because you like the people and they're nice and they wear the cross on the shirts and they don't say cuss words and they're not Jews or whatever, and because you don't understand what you're looking at, you intentionally are training an entire nation to use those words and mantra, which is what the deep state wants you to do. And you will never, no matter how much you catch, you will never get a conviction. Simply because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You see how complicated this is? So I'm going to give you other tests. And yes, this is Perry Mason stuff, which she replied. I said, look, we don't use voting machines. Ready? Here's what she said. Oh, get over yourself. What are you even saying? Me. That's the head of a state. The same guy that calls out this woman, heads of state, for the same guy that every time a woman online tries to get him have this discussion, he calls them vulgar names. Do you see the deflection? This is my problem. I'm saying if you don't pay attention to words and you get into a position of authority, you're going to fuck us all because you're petty. I don't need a medal. I'm not trying to change your cause. But when I say, look, here it is, You got to defend your stance. Stop calling names. We don't have voting machines. Here it is. Her answer is, oh, get over yourself. What are you even saying? Me. This is the problem in election integrity that's going to fuck us. And we got a problem coming the midterms because we didn't scrub the voter rolls and the bad voters are still there. Well, I pushed. Not me. And she says, well, here it is. We got anti-counter. Ready? When we return to one-day elections in our small, restricted county voting precinct, ballots will be printed on anti-counterfeit watermarked security paper, consecutively numbered with full judicial presiding judge handwritten signature on the back of every ballot. Alternate judge and clerks witnessing the ballot being placed in the box to be hand counted by neighbors. Baba, yabba, yabba, yabba. Okay, here we go. Number one. Right now, when you walk into a precinct and you check in, one of the hacks is the judge will, is this you? Okay, I'm checking on your ballot, it's you. And you think no big deal, they just checked you. The moment that pen hit the paper, the moment that pen hit the paper, it forces the tally, the scan, to adjudicate it. The second thing you're not understanding is we have a law on the books. It's called secret voting. You cannot match the ballot to the voter. When you go, right, to an individual serialized ballot, which should be done, you just have to understand how to do it, but you combine it with a judge signing as the person votes it, you've broken federal law. Why? That judge knows that that ballot is yours. Therefore, by default, they know how you voted. It's a federal law. Now, I understand all of this is paved with good intentions, but if you don't even understand the law, you can't fix shit. Actually, what you would do is you would basically make it where the left could challenge you all day long. They hand mark the ballot. Well, how do we know that that person didn't mark this? We don't know. Well, I know because it was this person I stood there. Oh, you mean you know exactly how they voted? This is how the system's set up. It's set up for compromise. But we're going to set this all aside. Let's say, in fact, you can use, ready? Anti-counterfeit, watermarked, security paper, consecutively numbered, right? With full judicial presiding judge, very people that aren't looking at it in a court, judicial presiding judge. Well, in the counties, you have one judge, maybe two. So the judge is also going to have to be there looking at every words matter. Words matter. Now, this is why we lose. Because, see, this is ammo for the left to tear apart your fucking words. You've got 10,000 voters in your county and one judicial presiding judge. You're expecting a judge to sit there in one day and verify each ballot? How do you do that? See, it sounds nice, but we have to be able to execute. And this is why words matter. Now, when you understand you cannot have a singular judge sit there and verify every one, you have to have other ways to get to the same place, which is what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. But because you think it's a fucking competition and you can't get that out of your head and you're selling hopium, you're going to lead us all into heartaches when everybody could be a hero if you just learned the laws you have to deal with. Okay, so we're going to do some testing, okay? Now, I'm the only person in American history that has personally looked at in excess of 2 million voted ballots. Not receipts from machines, not ticker tapes, not little scan codes, not cast vote records. 2 million physical, forensically documented, front and back, every vote ballots. Nobody in history has ever done that, ever. I have. I designed the system in a way that we could do it expeditiously and fast and create physical evidence along the way. Okay? Now, why did I do that? See, when I'm responding to these people, I'm responding as a subject matter expert. I'm responding, right, because I've actually done it. I know how they set you up. I know how they sabotage. I know how the media doesn't want to pay attention to it. I know how they place bad actors in. I know how they try to control it. And all of this stuff you said you're protecting happens before the ballot box, not after, and actually not during the ballot box. See, you think because you have been sold on the machines change the votes, you naively think the machines change the votes, so get rid of the machines. They can't be changed votes. We'll just count the ballots. The machines don't change the votes. It is all about the people, paper, and programs. Bernie Sanders and all of them told you that. It's the paper. The system wants you to look at the machines because all of the rules are voluntary. Now, how I got tipped off to this was way back when, at the very beginning, the very first, right? Okay? The very first audit out there that basically the testimony on the ground said only 1/3 of the ballots showed folds. But the county reported 98.75% of them, right, were returned, should have had folds. I can show you just in photos. This is exactly why I created kinematic artifacts. They're devoid of it. This is all I did, not only in computers, with a team of 41 and myself, exclusively, nonstop, very little sleep during that time. This is all we did. Looking for the telltale sign and backed it up, right, with it. So we're going to do just a little bit of a test for a moment. Ready? Use your eyes. 1. Predominantly, what type of ballots are these just from glancing? Imagine you're in a hand count. Remember, mail-ins have folds. You can see them. Election day are flat. What are these predominantly? Do you know, just a cursory look at the physical state of the ballots, which is called steady in motion kinematics, what are you looking at? Yeah, you're looking at mail-in. What are you looking at here? Now, I'm talking a lot about Antrim County, that the county told you 98% of the ballots were in the mail. What's wrong with this picture? Well, yes, you're looking at mail-in ballots in the foreground, printed flat ballots in the background. But they're supposed to be 98% folded. See, this was my problem way back then. What are you looking at here? These are batches of ballots. What type of ballot are you looking at? Yes, you can see in these ballots clearly they have folds. You can see the folds. They're mail-in. They look like flat packages, but as you look at the wave in the ballot, you can see the lines where the fold is. That's kinematics. Okay. What are we looking at here? Is she carrying election day ballots or is she carrying mail-in ballots? Which one is she carrying? Now, I'm going to give you a lesson in forensics. The only thing that changed in these ballots is technically the light frequency. And it is that bend movement, the ballot. How did it get moved? It got bent. That's kinematics. The bend can never be hidden. So these are all mail-in. What is he looking at here? Right? What are we looking at here? Well, yes, that's mail-in. Now, there's two reasons you can tell this ballot is official and mail-in. What is it? There are two reasons this ballot can be certified as an original mail-in ballot. Can you tell me the two reasons? Fold is one, and there's one other. Color. See the red? Okay. This is, okay, the running in of ballots. Okay. What type of ballots is this person scanning in the system? Well, see, there's a little catch here. What if I told you these are election day ballots? Because they are. Because they're all black and white, so they're election day. But if you look at the hand, you can see the fold mark going across the ballot. These are supposedly election day ballots. They should not be folded. And they're actually a copy. Let's look at these. Here is election day ballots. Or excuse me, here are mail-in ballots. Here is mail-in ballots. What is wrong with these ballots? And we're using Arizona standards at the moment. What is wrong with these ballots? Well, number one, if you look at this ballot, okay, you think there's no folds there, but in this particular ballot, what you should notice on this ballot is two things. There are two things that are very good. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, there's bleed through. You see the bleed through marker spots coming through where there shouldn't be votes. But there's something more important on these ballots. These are mail-in. These are mail-in. These are mail-in. And let's say in this county, they do all black and white. It's okay. I'm looking for something else. You see the bleed throughs, but there is something else wrong. There were no votes. The only thing that got voted was the opposite part of the ballot, which was judges and local initiatives exclusively. Why do they have so many that is just initiatives where they need funding but no candidates are voted. Now, what are the odds that you could just parse the stack and they're actually the same motherfucking thing? That's just a stack split in half. What are the odds that when you take that batch, they reflect the same identical thing, and the ballot itself doesn't have votes for the people you think you're voting for? They didn't bother to vote. They're empty, but the bleed-throughs are for judges. Are no cash bail initiatives. This is why, unless you know what you're looking at, even in a hand count, we can get screwed. Pause a minute. Do you remember when we hand counted every ballot in Arizona? You must remember, in all that time it took, because by law in Arizona, they wanted the Senate to look good. You can see the emails. Well, we need to look like we did it. Can't all be technology. So they demanded a hand count. Well, it requires 3 people, 2 judges, and then it had to be social distance with a special handler because mere citizens can't touch the ballots. That's why it had to be all this shit, right? But the ballots were actually recounted. What did the media headline after all the ballots were recounted? Do you remember what they said? The ballots were hand counted. The ballots were hand counted. What was the headline? What was the headline? When everything was released, what was the headline that the Senate led with in the testimony? Well, the most important finding was that Biden got more votes. And outside of that, and a few irregularities, the election looked like it was run properly. Now, why do I do that? Because I'm telling you, I know how they screw you even in a hand count. There was no significant change in the outcome. In fact, Biden got more votes. Folks, this is the largest hand count. This is the largest hand count in American history. Maricopa is the 4th largest county in the United States, the 2nd largest voting block ever. Now, let me say, okay, if I wasn't counting the votes, here you go, ready? Katie Hobbs, that incredible American hero. All of these steps, using UV lights to search for watermarks, measuring the thickness of ballots, searching for folds in ballots, and looking at ballots under a microscope, are unnecessary if the goal of the audit is to validate the election results. Okay, let's forget, just for a moment, let's forget the election results. In fact, when you do an audit, you should not care about the election results. You are auditing, was it done properly, and was everybody treated the same under the 14th Amendment, equal treatment under the law? Katie Hobbs and everybody else just in fact, in Atrium, because I had already hit the airways when Atrium went, when they were counting ballots, some people had already been following me and they were telling the supervisors, there's no fold in these, and they say mail in. You know what the supervisor said? The supervisor says, you are here to count the vote, not decide whether it was handled the right way or that's a mail-in ballot. And if you keep on doing that, we're going to kick you out, because the scope of the audit is to recount the votes. The scope of the audit is to recount the vote. And that's why the scope of the audit didn't back then, where I knew the problem was when they said 98.75% were returned and supposed to be all these mail-in ballots, and I knew they weren't, but that wasn't the scope of the audit. They did the old shit. Well, we'll just hand count them. Great. I don't give a rat's fucking ass about hand count. Right? Because that's not an audit. That's a recount. So let's look at this thing, shall we? Let's forget the vote. Can you and I agree to forget the vote just for a moment? And can you understand that Arizona, Maricopa County, Arizona, was the single largest hand recount ever in history of a president and a Senate race ever? Hand count. Okay? So I know what I'm talking about. Let's look for what is called the second right answer. You ready? Here it is. Now I'm going to take you through this. Okay? Now what this is called is this is just the baseline. This is just the baseline kinematic result. That's it. Let me find it. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you how to read this. I told you, give me a report card. Okay. Now, number one, we did a report card by district. This is not a hand count, not a hand counting. Okay. So here it is. Ready? According to the system, they said that 84.13% of the ballots came in through the mail. They said 84.13% of the ballots came in through the mail. How do we know a mail ballot? Because a mail ballot has been folded by a machine. Then they said 7.53% of the ballots were early votes. 7.53% were early votes. How do we know an early vote? Because the ballot is folded by hand, not a precise machine doing it. You know how you fold the paper and you get pissed off because the nipples don't match on the end? That's hand folding. So they said, physical report they did. 7.53% were early votes, so they should be hand folded. And then election day, right? 8.34% will be election day ballots. Now, a few things. Number one, the column that says machine folded. Okay. That is a color ballot on the correct paper, printed by the official printer with auditable machine folded lines. The hand folded category, early vote, that is a black and white ballot, not color. Then it will have hand, I can tell if you're left-handed or right-handed, right? I can even tell if you put your lips to it to moisten it. And the no fold is black and white. That's election day, black and white, no folds. Now, did they pass? Well, if you look at the margin of failure in machine votes, if they weren't really mail-in ballots, where did they make up the difference? Well, they make up the difference in hand-folded or no folds. And you see how big they are over. You see how big the stuff is over. Now, what you find out is not only do none of the kinematics match, there are more black and white ballots in system because those 84.13% should be in color. There are more black and whites in the system by massive margins than there should be. What does that tell you? That tells you those were printed on machines that were not official machines. Now, every single precinct failed. That's what you call widespread. Every one of them failed. But it's interesting, if you look by district and you look at the percentages, because remember, audits should recheck on themselves. When you add the numbers across the line, you find out you don't get 100%. And it's kind of interesting that the percentage missing is exactly the number of percentages of ballots missing. They didn't have it in their additional report. They said they were all there. But when you physically look at it, because none of these numbers add up perfectly to 100%, it's exactly the percent of the ballots that we said aren't there. They're missing. They never existed. Now, were all of these ballots hand counted? Did they report to the world that, well, the count basically matched? In fact, Joe Biden got, 100 or 200 or 300 more votes. Now, let me ask you a question. Is what matters here how people voted, or that they're rigging the system and we got to get it stopped? Now, did these issues happen at the ballot box? No, it all happens before the ballot box. This is a failure they cannot dispute. Why can't they dispute it? Because there is physical evidence at the forensic level shown can be redocumented. But that's not what anybody talked about. All they talked about was the machines, the machines, the machines. See, the machine systems are voluntary. But every time they take a physical ballot and they manipulate the physical ballot nefariously, it is a crime. Can you see how many crimes are here? It's in the hundreds of thousands. But this is why they want you to focus on the machines. This is why when the bad actors, after all this work, look, I'm over $2.6 million in this. My own money. Would have been a lot better fucking use for my family, especially with the hurricane and having to rebuild family and shit. But no, I spent it for the people of Arizona who attack this shit nonstop because they're sold on, you didn't do a report. Here's the evidence. I call this out because this is the deception. And if you don't know where these things are, you don't know how to call them out. And if you don't constantly understand where all this is legally, you don't know what the recourse is. Let's say you're in Michigan, you're doing a hand count, and you're going, fucking A, this is re-fucky-ducky, this is horrible. It's on election day. You haven't even got to the recount yet. That person dropped in 3 ballots. I saw him do it right then and there. Well, you know how it now works in Michigan? If there are issues, because back then, by the way, they couldn't recount 392 precincts of 662. If there's any claim before a recount, the state law now says a recount is barred for unballoted precincts or anyone that have broken seals. So let me ask you a question. We're going to hand count them all. Well, what if they just have a person make a fake claim of, I put in 2 ballots? Or what if they just have one of the people in the back room cut the seal? They fucking beat you to it. Now you don't get to recount it. This is the nastiest war on earth. The biggest war I fight is not the left. The left stays quiet about me. They don't want me in court. You can see why. So who do they get to do the fighting? the right So I am for one-day counting. I'm for getting rid of every one of the fucking machines, etc. Now, why did I even have this discussion? Because I talked to a lawmaker, well, I'll call a lawmaker, a Texas leader. We got it done. We got to do it. We're doing hand counting. We got it done. And so I just asked a simple question. When you do your hand count, please tell me how you identify the dead voter. When you do the hand count, please tell me how you identify the illegal who voted. When you do your hand count, please tell me how the phantom voter did it. Because, see, all of those people are legally approved on the rolls to do it. Now, the question is, and I'm asking you, okay? And I'm going to show you the ballot. Here's what she did. Here's the ballot. If you were looking at this ballot, tell me, how do you identify a dead person voted it? If you were looking at this ballot, you can see a bit of it down here, how would you be able to tell the phantom voter that it voted it? How would you be able to tell the illegal that voted it? The dead person that voted it? That many of them were dropped in drop boxes that voted it. But it's going to get to your hand count. They're going to bring it to you. How do you identify it? And this is the question I keep on asking of Mike Lindell, of Cause of America, that I get attacked for, that I'm just being a meanie. No, I'm trying to have you get your head around how this actually happens. There are 13 indicias in this ballot. Here's the ballot they're proposing. There are 13 indicias in this ballot. And oh, by the way, the lady says she doesn't know my work. She heads Texas. You see that fucking scan code in the bottom left? Those patents that make that work, there's 207 of them, are my fucking patents. Which is why I got in this to begin with, because I got a call from the White House way back then saying, we're hearing that the Q codes are changing the ballots. I said, I'll look into it. I reported back what the Q code said, and I said, that's not how they're doing it. And I'm debating somebody in the state of Texas who was calling me, this being, when it's the 207 patents that I created that even allow automated systems to scan tally. Now get ready. There are, in the image I'm going to show you, 20 plus security devices. I'm going to give you the exact amount of time you're going to get to look at the paper. And let's even say you get to hunt for bamboo. He was hunting for bamboo. He was hunting for bamboo. So let's say you get to use ultralight frequencies, right? Ultraviolet light frequencies. Let's say you get to use that too. To confirm a ballot, there are 21 individual cross-confirming codes in the ballot. Get ready. Ready? Verify the ballot. I'm going to give you the exact time we got in Arizona. Ready? 1, 2, 3. How many could you confirm? Now, let me tell you what happens. And this is the real rig. That coded ballot that way is lawmakers making more money per ballot and a public company going public. You can't verify any of them. So let me ask you a question. How do you verify it? You verify it because the fucker's blooming and you see that big circle and some stuff through the bloom. But do you know what they are? No. So as soon as your eyes sees that bloom, you think it's valid. So now let's put your Dick Nefarious hat on. I'm going to counterfeit ballots. I'm going to flood the system. They're going to be there. All I got to know, because I know what the issue is, let me just make a little longhorn and a circle pop out. Can I do that? Because you're not going to look at 13 different things. You have to confirm. And so will it bloom? Shit, yeah, it'll bloom. You'll see it. Was that an authentic ballot? Now, here's my point. I told you this. Damn it, I told you this. You know who's leading this cause? That's Fincham in Arizona that fought hard that I could not look at the ballots. But he plays like he's a hero. He makes a commission when they use these ballots. Who are the 2 states that immediately deployed these ballots? One wrote it into law. Arizona. We're going to do the right thing. Who was the one that just used it? Georgia. Who did the television and the left interview for doing all this about secure elections? Well, we know it was secure because we used this secure paper. We did it for all of our stuff. We went to paper. Now, let me ask you a question. Hey, you want to buy some Fenzabine and anti-hepatitis virus? Do it here. Click. Bullshit. Anyway, that was Rumble. Trolls. So, did it stop anything? If you don't train people, what's going to happen when it blooms? Oh, look, it looks just like the one I saw. Look, just like it. Was that voted by an illegal? Phantom voter? Whatever. So here's my only point. We need to go to voting being a holiday. We need to get rid of mail-in voting. We need to get in early voting, get rid of it if we can. We need to get rid of the machines if we can. Many states have written them into state law. You think, well, hand count. Okay, great. You did it in what? You said 200 plus places. You did it in 10 places out of 3,800. Our problem is the midterms. Our problems are the weapon is already preloaded. Our problem is they'll let us count them all day long. They just won't look at the integrity and the true nature of them. And so even though you hand counted, Katie Hobbs tells you, oh, that's crap. You don't need to look at folds. You don't need to look at microscopes. You don't need to look at UV. I'm telling you, we fucking do. And here it is. And I can prove it because I've done it. And I'm not working off of theory. So now I want you to grade me. I love my country. I hate people, but I love my fellow Americans. But I hate people. People have no ethics. People have no morals. People have no loyalty. They know there's fake news, but they post and try to attack me. Fucking leftist blogs to attack me. How's that? You can't be of two minds. But you know what? I love my children. I love my grandchildren. I love my future generations. I love my country. So I want you to know, I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing the system. And I'm telling you, the system wanted you to stick your fingers in your ears, not to listen to me. And it worked. The system told you I didn't know shit, didn't turn in a report. No, you didn't do a kinematic audit. He didn't do anything. But yet I can prove it to you millions of times over and over and over and over. and you become a willing foot soldier for the demons trying to take over our country and stay in power so they can grift more money. And then you battle me online saying, well, you're just talking about you. It's all the same shit. Look, they go, well, QCat, I got caught in the .com crash. But 15 billion mobile devices use my technology globally. Did I fail? I'm one of the most frequently cited and granted patent authors since Thomas Edison. Did I fail? Part of the reason they attack me is because failure is not what I do. I'm right. Even if I got caught in the .com crash, I could see the future and how it was going to be done. And here it is. Everybody uses it. All I do is exercise my gifts. When I call out Mike Lindell, and I've had every one of these in private discussions, but he still doesn't make changes. He still won't listen. He still puts up people that tells everybody to do something different that doesn't work. I have questions. And as an American who cares about his country, I'm going to ask those fucking questions. When I see leaders for the cause going to TBAC telling every lawmaker, I don't worry about the voter rolls. It's like sweeping the dirt floor. And I know exactly what the system needs is to keep that dirt floor in place. Why do they do that? And I've always said, yeah, get rid of the machines. Did I say get rid of the voting machines? No, I did not. I said get rid of the machines. Words matter. Words matter. I didn't say get rid of the voting machines because there aren't any. There's voting systems, and they're all software companies. I don't focus on the machines because the federal and state law reflect each other and says it's all voluntary. How do you convict them and get them to stop if the rules are voluntary? I don't say, well, they're not supposed to be connected to the internet. He lied in front of Congress. You know why I don't say that? Because number one, not connected to the internet was not a law. So you can't go back retroactively. Number two, when that chief, that chairman of that company sits there in front of Congress and says, we do not make voting machines that connect to the internet, you got to accept the reality. He's telling the truth. Why? Number one, they don't make voting machines. Number two is they don't connect them to the internet. Your fucking county does it because it's a recommendation in their manual that says, hey, if you're using other software programs to like look at your poll book or whatever, then you're going to have to connect this to your LAN. Then when they plug it in, it is connected to the internet. But did the voting system company do it? No. We're air gapped. Well, technically, that's what it is. And it's why I bitch about the machines don't change the votes. The machine doesn't do a fucking thing except what it's told. And in order to be told to do something, it takes a program that a person put there. But see, you can keep on saying machines all day long, and they want you to. Because as long as you say, well, that machine's not supposed to connect to the internet, you look like a fucking fool in court. Because number one, it's not a law. And number two, it ain't a voting machine. And they got you. But there's an entire crop of experts that won't tell you the truth. Well, they're not going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. And what they do is they go around and they misdirect. And they go around and get you saying the wrong words. They get you making the wrong claims. They get you describing it wrong because then it has no teeth. But you hold everybody up because they praise Jesus and they've been on TV. And then when you audit the people that are praise Jesus on TV, they take their approved people and say shit like this.
So you have a centralized statewide voter roll that's on networked machines, servers. It has a public-facing internet interface. That's it. That's all I need to know that it's blown. That's a centralized statewide voter roll that was mandated by Help America Vote Act. They have these all over the country. And it's not just that you have a public-facing internet interface to it, but multiple organizations have what's called an API, or an application programming interface. In other words, a machine-to-machine interface into that voter roll. And I'm telling you this because when people say, well, we have to clean up the voter rolls, it's true that they're not following the law. It's true that they're not in good faith maintaining them in accordance with Title 52 that requires that the voter rolls be both secure and accurate. That's a requirement imposed on the secretaries of state who've received the Help America Voting Act and CARES Act funding to maintain those voting systems. What nobody's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, is you cannot clean those rolls. You're sweeping a dirt floor.
And the rolls got ignored. And the rolls is where they do it. And they've already got the illegals on the rolls. They've already got the phantoms on the rolls. But let's lead the chart of the Lindell system, and we're going to hand count it. Hey, Wear One Yogi on Instagram. How are you doing? Nice to see you. I love your videos. Think about this. This is the game. Now, if that means I'm a dick for calling this out, okay, I accept it. I'm a dick. But see, don't you think we got here because we didn't call out our elected officials right? Don't you think we got here because we listened to people and they crapped in our craniums and made us regurgitate their shit? I'm not picking on people. I am fighting for the truth, and I'm trying to just get everybody on the same page. But when you've got leaders supposed to be integrity, well, I'm not going to talk to you because you were mean. But you got to apologize first. You're being mean to my friends. I want you to think about that. If they get so fucking upset that I'm mean to their friends, do you think they can fucking fight for your life to fix elections? No, they fucking can't. Why? Because they're possibly going to get offended during the process, and then they're going to be upset, and they're just going to take their toys and go someplace else. Damn it, folks, we're at war. We've won nothing. We got our leader in, but we have won nothing, not even a fucking battle. I am not, and look, I gave it to you. I told you years ago when they tried to play a con game because you wanted a full forensic audit, my work. They tried to say no, right? They threatened me. They called me names. I put them on cease and desist. They knew I had their ass, wanted me to sign an agreement. I couldn't talk about it, and then they'll do it. I say, fuck you, stick that agreement up your ass. You'll either do what you said or you won't. By the way, you can see it on my Twitter. I posted it. That's how the game's played. Way back when, they thought they could shut up my words. Isn't it interesting? Some of these same experts, hey, we're going to hand count, and I have a theory of a prodigal mathematical triangular triological fractal. Went to 30 states. Who funds that? Went to 30 states. We're going to do all this canvassing. Have you seen a canvassing report? Any of you that gave your time to canvassing, many of you, God bless you, did. Have you seen the fucking reports? No. Do you know why? Because you signed NDAs that basically said you can't talk about it. They kept you fucking busy with canvassing, and they took thousands of people instead of screaming about what's real, and they made you focus on something that wasn't. And yes, I think all of this deception was USAID funded. Yes, I get emotional about it. I won't apologize for it. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that people can be so fucking shallow that they still think we're in elementary school. I've always given you permission to hate my ass. You don't have to like me. unless you're a small yoga instructor. But you don't have to like me. That doesn't matter to me. I don't go to the parties and I don't go to the events mainly for two reasons. It's not my style, but for security reasons. But you don't have to like me. That's so social media shallow, and that's politician shit. I don't care if I'm liked. In fact, you know what? I would be totally fine being the most hated man in America among lawmakers and USAID stuff and all this stuff because I exposed it. Fucking let them hate me. They hate me because I do my job. We are all in this together. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of the posers that have been put up. And like I said, I don't fight the left. The left doesn't come after me. Two reasons. The left doesn't come after me on the interviews like they did in the beginning because I record the interview. And then as soon as they write something wrong that wasn't true, what did I do? I released the entire interview and exposed them. So they stay away from me. Same with the lawmakers. That's why you can see all these documents that I'm putting out on Twitter now. Folks, don't think I love you. I do love you, all of you that are family here. But look, I don't like people. I wish I did, but I don't. And I don't because I have a problem. I measure people in life. I want them to have the same character and dedication I have. I want them to have the same ethic I have. There's so few. Melk, Cowboy Logic, but there's so few and far between. My standards are incredibly fucking high, and it disappoints me in America. It disappoints me. We can run off in rabbit trails, and we'll look over here. Well, you go read some junior professor's fucking blog. Well, he did this, and he's a fraud, and you repeat it. They use the same tactic you hate that they use against President Trump. They use against me, and you fucking believe it. Here's the deal. You can hate me. You can be any denomination you want. You can have sex with anyone you want, except kids. You can have sex with anyone you want, every way you fucking want. You can overdo the Jesus. You cannot say Jesus. You can be fucking trans. I don't care. If you love this nation and want to get it right, and you think we got to secure it for future generations, I will be in the foxhole with you, and I will fight, and I will die for you, because that's what's right, and it's my mission. And that's it. But you don't have to like me. And I wish I could get it through adults' minds. It's kind of hard when the system itself won't even have a dialogue, won't even have meetings, won't even discuss these things that are very glaring, because if they ignore it, it's not there. And isn't that what happened with our lawmakers? If you want to know how to help me amplify all of my tweets and stuff, copy Elon, copy President Trump, you've got to put tags in them. Don't just retweet it. You got to quote tweet it and tag people that need to know. You don't need to tag me. Tag the president. Tag the vice president. Tag Bondi. Tag Cash. Tag Elon. That's where it matters. That's your one finger war to give them the finger. And you can do it by just doing this. But for me, this is not a game. And I will willingly die for my country. I will willingly die for you. Because we won't have a country if we don't get this right. Share this program. God bless you. And I love you all for being here. I love you all for listening and being open-minded. And in my chats and stuff, you see, I look at everything. We're family and friends here that care about this nation. And that's all that matters right now. I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
This crazy world is telling you your sons can be daughters and your daughters can be your sons. When will the madness stop? Never. So you have to decide, will you comply or defy? They tell us all, You will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy. Is this why America's largest food processing plants and food supply plants keep burning down? Do you really think this is a coincidence? Of course not. The system is telling us right to our faces what they have planned for us. You have a choice. Comply or simply defy their plan for us all. Defy the system's plan and execute your own plan. Abundant, safe, secure natural food supply. Introducing the Food Forest Bible. This bestseller by Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is the single most complete, executable, easy-to-follow plan for sustainable, self-managing food production for self-sufficiency and food security. For the first time ever, a coffee table, heirloom quality full color book which unlocks the ancient secrets of creating a food forest. Imagine planting in a way which requires no digging, no pesticides, and creates massive ancient food abundance. No fooling. Food forests are the ancient secret to planning and planting once. And have your own Garden of Eden, which will feed your families for decade after decade. Buck the system. Buck the New World Order and order your very own copy of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's Food Forest Bible. Learn how to create a sustainable, self-managing, natural food production for self-sufficiency and food security for your family. Side yard, small yard, backyard, backlot, or even lots of acres, the Food Forest Bible works for everyone. Order on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, or ebook. Don't comply. Expertly defy the system.